welcome. Welcome back. It's Monday. It's the start of a new week. And this week on our live demos, we're going to be focusing on one of my favorite things in the world, color. Before we get started on today's project and before I tell you a little bit more about this week's demos, I just want to make a couple of announcements. So, I am going to be doing these demos online here daily for the next 2 weeks. So I've got this week and next. The following week, I'm going to move to a 2-day-a-week schedule for a while. I know my kids have gotten a bunch more Zoom calls and meetings and things in the last week. And so I realize that everyone's schedules are getting really filled. And I want this to be a very relaxing, kind of chill experience for you guys. So I think doing the demos a little less frequently will be just easier on you. Probably easier on me now that I'm managing a lot of the kids, helping them get all their schoolwork in order and everything like that. So that's my big announcement for that. I may go back to more frequent demos during the summer. We'll see. But for now, the next 2 weeks you got me. And after that, we'll go to a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. Couple other things. So last week we had a giveaway. I know that our sponsor Printworks is choosing the winner today, and I will let you guys know as soon as I know who that is. I will make an announcement, probably via email. So if you are, I would get on my email list, and I'll put a link in the description below to that. And lastly, one more announcement, then we're gonna get to our project. I am going to be doing projects from my book next week. My book is called STEAM Play and Learn. It's easy STEAM projects using things you have at home. And if you want to get it, you don't need to have it for the demos, but I wanted to announce it because I know if you do say want to have it handy during next week's projects, I know there are a lot of delays with online ordering right now, so that's why I wanted to give you a little bit of time to potentially order that if that's something that interests you. I'm also going to have a giveaway with that next week as well, but I'm not going to announce the details on that till next week. So I will throw a bunch of links below after this video is done with the email list and my book links and all that good stuff. But for now, let's get started with color. This is one of my favorite sort of subjects because I like to really bring color mixing into almost all of our projects when I can. One of the ways to make a project a STEAM project, an easy way, is to really incorporate color mixing and color theory. So this is one of my all-time favorite ways to just really teach kids, bring art into like science projects and chemistry and things like that. Today we're doing pretty much a straight art project, but as the week progresses, you'll see some other science-based color activities. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna turn this around and we're gonna get started. If you go to the link in the description below, there's a template available. And the template's on my blog. It's a color wheel template, and I show you 3 different ways to make a very simple color wheel. What is a color wheel, by the way? A color wheel is a visual representation of color and the different relationships colors have to each other. So I made this template to kind of explain and show where things are laid out. So we've got a whole section of warm colors on one side of our color wheel. We've got cool colors on the bottom. We're going to talk about shade. We're going to talk about tint. And you're going to mix up your color wheel and really get a chance to explore what these things are by actually mixing up the color yourself. So what we're going to do, now you can do this project with watercolor cakes. If you have watercolor cakes, you can do it with oil pastels. If you like the way we're doing it today, I highly recommend you try watercolors or oil pastels. If you, we're going to do it with washable markers today, and so I've been using them a lot during the stay-at-home orders because they're just so easy. Everyone has a set of these. And so they're a really good stand-in for a lot of materials. So that's why I thought, let's go ahead and use the simplest one for today's project. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab our template. And if you don't have a template, this is fairly easy to recreate. You should do this on, if you have it, cardstock or watercolor paper, because it will absorb some of the liquids that we're gonna put on this. If you just have regular paper, that's okay too. But if you're making this from scratch, go ahead and get a white piece of paper or cardstock, and then get maybe 3 different things, circular objects. So maybe a saucer or plate, maybe what would be the size of that? Another plate probably, like a smaller saucer, and then maybe like a cup, and then trace them. You don't need to do the middle one, the very middle one. Just get 3 circular areas, and then you're going to divide it up into sections if you can, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to start coloring in this pie. Let's think of this as a giant pie, a color pie. And we're going to color in the sections, each slice of the pie, according to the color that I've written above. So this one is yellow. Now, if you follow my blog, you know I'm a big fan of very loose, open-ended art projects. This project is pretty, so let's just say it's pretty directed. But that's okay. Sometimes when we're learning about things, I think that's totally fine. And this is really about you guys getting to know your colors, getting comfortable with your colors. So, as opposed to most of my other open-ended projects, this one has a little bit more of a, you know, there's some directions to sort of try to follow if you want to really get the best representation of a color wheel. If you choose to make your own, that's okay too. Like when I did this with my students and I didn't give a ton of supervision because we were walking around, they came up with some different variations and they were beautiful. Even though they didn't match exactly the color the way I had laid it out, they still ended up being very beautiful. So you see I moved on to orange here. Now I'm going on to red. I should have mentioned, do not color the outer ring. Do not color the outer ring. We're going to leave that uncolored for a moment, and I'll show you why after we get all these colors in. So I've just colored in my 3 warm sections of the pie, okay? My 3 warm colors, yellow, orange, and red are known as warm colors. Now I'm going to start on the cool colors below, and so this says violet or purple. We're going to do that. And one other thing you'll notice is that, let's talk a little bit about primary and secondary colors. So our primary colors, while we color this in, this says blue, so I'm going to color in this section. Our primary colors are blue, red, and yellow. And our secondary colors are green, orange, and violet. And you'll see on the color wheel, the primary colors, it goes, you skip a color in between each of the primaries, and the color in between each primary is the secondary color that they would make. So if you mix yellow and red, you're going to get orange. If you mix red and blue, you're going to get a violet color. Okay, so that's how that works. And now we're going to do our last secondary color, which is green. My favorite color. If you want to tell me what your favorite color is, I would love to hear it. Actually, you know, as I've gotten older, my favorite color is probably now pink. But I still love green. If I had to pick one color to see for the rest of my life, it'd probably be green. That's probably because I like nature. All right. Now, once we have our color wheel set up, we're going to start blending our colors and creating tints and shades. Okay, and so let's do this. What I need you to grab is a glass of water and a brush and probably a paper towel. We're going to wet our brush, and what we're going to do is we're going to wet this marker, because this is a water-based marker. It's going to dissolve, and we're going to brush out. You know, I'm going to get a different brush. I feel like that one had a little bit of paint on it. Here, let's make sure. Okay, that's better. We're going to brush our colors outward, and we're going to try to get some pigment, some light color on the outer ring. Now with yellow, it's a little bit hard because it's a very light color to begin with. But let's keep going, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Orange is getting a little better. So what we're doing right now is we're creating a tint. Okay, a tint is a color that is mixed with white in order to lighten it. So by leaving this white band here and then brushing some of the pigment out, we're essentially mixing it with white to create a tint, okay? This is some good color vocabulary. Look at that. Now the darker colors tend to work a little better with this. And if you need to, just keep dipping. Now you may find that if you're using watercolor paper, this won't happen, but if you're using anything else, you may find that as your paper gets a bit damp, it starts kind of balling up, like some of the fibers kind of ball up. That's okay. You can usually, once this dries, you can usually brush them that off, okay? And here we go. Look, now I've got all my tints. Isn't that pretty? I think that's really pretty. I love a good color mixing project. Now what I want to do is I want to get some variations on color. So I'm going to start coloring in. I'm going to start blending the area between where two different colors meet to see if I can get, for instance, in this section, like an orangey yellow. And maybe here an orangey red or a reddish orange. Some of these colors work better than others. And if you're using real watercolor cakes, this should work a little bit better. It still works with the washable, it's not quite as easy to distinguish. You see it mostly, oh, and then we should brush it out so we get a tint as well. Let me do that. Let me go back a little bit, brush that out and up so we get a tint of that mixed color, if we can. Then I'm gonna do my green and blue. And lastly, the yellow and green. It really shows up with the yellow and green because we've got a light color and a dark color coming together. Okay, there we go. So now we've got some variations of colors and they're starting to blend a little bit more. And the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a shade. So I know I'm moving pretty quickly, but let me just review. If you're still working, just keep painting that water on. Let's review really quick. We have our color wheel with our warm colors to the top. We've got our cool colors, which are violet, blue, and green to the bottom, the warmer yellow, orange, and red. We've got, oh, I didn't mention this, we've got complementary colors. So we've got any color across from another color on the color wheel, that's a complementary color. Green and red are complementary. Blue and orange are complementary, and yellow and violet are complementary. We've got our primary colors, our three primary colors here, with the secondary color created by those in between them. We've also got tints, which is a color mixed with white. And the very last thing we're gonna do is create a shade. A shade is a color mixed with black to darken it. So let's go ahead and add a bunch of black ink using a black washable marker at the center of our color wheel. And then the last part we're gonna do is we're gonna take our brush and we're gonna brush a little bit of that dark pigment out. This is where your paper, if it's not like watercolor paper, it may really kind of ball up a little bit there. Pill up, I should say pill. Pilling. That's the correct word. Okay, so now what I'm doing, if you need to add some more black, that's fine. You can actually just probably sit it down there because this paper is getting saturated. As soon as I put the marker on there, it kind of, the ink starts flowing. And now we've got shades of each of these colors. And that's our color wheel project. So go ahead and let this dry. This, you know, my son did one of these and I thought it was really, really pretty. Like I love it when you guys make your own, I don't know, when you add your personal touch to this. This looked really beautiful. I have it framed in our kitchen, the version that he made. I also want to show you a couple more variations really quick. So if you like this, again, let me show you what this is what it looks like if you use actual watercolors. So obviously watercolor paints, you have a little more control and a little more like they're just made to blend. So they make a little bit more of a subtle color wheel with more subtle variations. It's really beautiful. So I highly recommend if you have watercolors, use them. You can also do this project with oil pastels. And let me show you what you can do with oil pastels. So I did this earlier. With oil pastels, there's a pretty cool technique on how you can blend them. So let's show you, I'm going to show you with red and orange how you can blend them. So if you do this with oil pastels, you would do the same thing. You color in the middle area of the pie with each of the colors as designated. And then, here's the fun part. And it's a little bit messy, but you know I love a good mess, so I'm good with that. Okay. Then you take your finger, and you can see I already blended, so my finger's already a little bit dirty. That's okay. You take your fingertip, and you start blending with your fingertip across the color lines. And you have a little bit more, they're really vibrant. So unlike with our markers where when you add the water, it gets a little more diluted. The oil pastels stay pretty vibrant as you blend them across. And you can see, this is one where I did the yellow here earlier. So now you see the kind of yellowy orange moving to a darker orange to a reddish orange. The other fun thing you can do is with oil pastels, if you take a white oil pastel and go like this around the edges, you can create the tint. So the white you can use to blend and lighten. It's pretty cool. Same with black in the center, which is what would happen if you did here and you got your shades. Okay? And they're really thick, so they even cover up a lot of the lines. All right, you guys, I'm gonna turn my camera. Awesome. All right, you guys, that's it for today's project. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you love color as much as I do. And we will be back all week featuring more color projects. Tomorrow, we're gonna get really messy. So just a heads up, if you're gonna join us tomorrow, be prepared to get a little messy. Maybe an apron would be good, maybe. All right, you guys, I will see you back tomorrow. Take care.